I am here, ready to go. Let me get the chat opened up. So come on in, have a seat, get comfortable, and we'll get started in about 3 minutes. Open the chat. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Make sure you subscribe if you're on Facebook. I greatly appreciate it, and share with your friends. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe and click the bell so each time I upload a video, you'll be notified of that. In the meantime, I'm going to get the chat set up so we can communicate with each other. And I'll do that here. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Go back and make sure all my stuff is spelled correctly. How do I get over it? Let's see. Well, let's see if we can get the... There we go. Trying to get my cursor moving, it didn't want to work. There we go. Give me a second here. I'm trying to get this thing to cooperate. And obviously, it's operator error as usual. Comments. Hang on. There we go. Okay, we are off and running. And I'm going to sign in to Facebook just to make sure that we are all on the same page here. All right, we are live. And I think we're good to go. All right. This on mute. Okie doke. We are ready to roll. All right, we'll give it a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. Oh, we have somebody that's joined on. Welcome, welcome. We'll start and we'll probably give it another 2 minutes. And we are going to do a small treat bag today, which can be used for any occasion. So we haven't done that in a while, so I thought that'd be something different to do. Welcome, welcome. How's everyone doing? The comments are open. All right, let's see. It is 12:02. We'll give it another minute and then we'll get started. All right, welcome everyone. The comments are open. If you have any questions, you can put comments on your screen and I'll be able to see those. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm Dawn Duvall. I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up, and I've been doing this 14 and a half years. And today we are going to work on making a really cute, small closing gift bag. And I'm going to start out with a piece of white cardstock so that you can see how everything has to be scored and cut. It makes it a lot easier to see it on the white than it is on the pattern paper. Now, the gift bag, you can use your cardstock or pattern paper or both, however you want to decorate it. That's your choice. But we're going to make, today I'm going to use pattern paper. So we'll go ahead and get that started. And let me flip the camera down and let's get started. I don't know how long it's going to take, but we're here for an hour. So if it takes that long, it's fine. If we get done early, then that's fine. So let's go ahead and let me flip the camera down, and give me 1 second so I can flip the camera to the table and get everything situated. Bear with me 1 minute so I can get it to where y'all can see everything. All right, let's see. Let me get in here. Let me push this back just a tad. I think that's good. All right, there's our paper. I'm gonna have to keep it up there. Hang on 1 second. Let me push this back a little bit more. I'm gonna adjust this and bring this down. All right, I think that's better. There we go. All right, here are the two bags that I made. They're really cute. This one is, you'll see how that's designed. They're both out of Designer Series paper. Did I flip? Hang on. Hang on. Let me see if I flipped. I can't remember. There we go. Now we're flipped the right way. Y'all were looking at everything upside down. All right, so this is one that both of these I made yesterday. Very cute, and it's got a little locking mechanism right here. So, and then you can open it up, fill it. It's enough to hold. You can put lipsticks in there, a little bit of makeup, jewelry, candy, whatever you feel like you need to put in there, and they can be used for any occasion. So this might be something great for the holidays. You can make Halloween little bags if you have grandchildren or young kids that you might be having some sort of party. So you could put little things in there for them. And then this is just a different one that I used with different designer paper. And again, you can use cardstock if you choose to do so. And again, it has this little locking mechanism right here that I'll show you how we're going to do that. And we're going to put all of these together. So let's go ahead. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a piece of basic white cardstock so that you can see the scoring, and I'm going to use a pen after I get them scored so that you can see the lines on the designer paper. It's a little more difficult to see that. So let's go ahead and bring in our paper trimmer. And we're going to start out, you want to start out with a piece of designer paper cardstock that's going to be 8 1/4 by, now the directions that I initially used said 10 1/4, 8 1/4 by 10 1/4. I made it by 10 1/2. It gives us a little bit larger piece to use when we fold our bag to close it. So that's what I did. I cut it at 10 1/4. Okay, so on the long side of our paper, now I'm going to score this, and then you should be able to see it. If not, I'll go back with my pen, with my pen or pencil. Actually, I think that's probably what I'll do. I'll score it, and then I'll go in the track with my pencil. Okay, so for the first score, we're going to do on the long side at the top, we're going to do at 3 1/2 inches. So we want to line this up at 3 1/2. Make sure you've got your paper lined up top and bottom so it's even. So we're going to score there, and I'm going to put my pencil in here and just draw a line so that you can see our score marks. It's going to come in handy when we start cutting, okay? The next part, we're going to move down to 5 inches. So we're going to score that as well. And I'm going to make my little pencil mark so that you can just see what we're going to be doing. And then we're going to move it down to 8 1/2. So we're going to move it there and score again. And again, I'm going to make a pencil mark so that you can see. And then the last one, we're going to score at 10 inches, which is going to give me a 1/2. And if it's a little bit too big, we can always trim that down. Okay, I don't think it's going to be. If it is, we'll trim it down just a little bit. But I don't think that's going to be too much. Okay, now we're going to turn it. So the short end is at the top, and we're going to score it at 2 inches. All right, we're going to score it 2. Now again, I'm going to draw the line so that you can see. And then we're going to move this over to 6 3/4. So we'll get that over there and score again. And let's make a mark. This is just easier for you all to see what I'm trying to show, okay? All right, so let's move this out of the way. Now we're going to be doing some cutting. So you want to get your paper snips out. Now this is the, we're going to go ahead and fold these lines. And then this piece here is going to be the top right up here, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and fold this. And this is going to be a little bit sturdier since we're using the cardstock. So let me just fold it so we can get so we can see our creases. We get ready to cut. It makes it a lot easier. And then we're going to come down. We'll do the bottom one. I'm going to come in and fold it back first, and then we'll fold it back to the front. All right, and then we're going to fold the inside pieces in. All right, so this is that 1/2 inch mark right here. So we're going to fold that. And I'm just going to use the bone folder to give it a good crease. And we're going to do the same thing on each of these score lines that we made. All right. Welcome, everyone. We're just getting started. We're making a gift bag. And I'll show you in just a minute. I'm doing it on white cardstock, so it gives you a better idea. If you're just joining, this is what we're going to make. We're going to make it out of pattern paper, but I'm showing you on the white cardstock. It's a lot easier to be able to see the lines. And if you just joined, you'll have to just rewatch the video to get the measurements because I just did those just a few minutes ago. Okay, so this is our top piece right here that we want to, this is what we're going to cut on first. Let me fold everything back just a little bit. Now, what we're going to do, and I use the pencil after I score just so that you all could see what we're trying to do. All right, this is the side right here that we're going to be folding over to be help our bag when it closes. All right, so we're going to take and we're going to cut, we're going to put that on the right-hand side. So up here, we want to remove all of this to here. We're going to keep this piece here, and then we're going to remove this one, okay? And I'm trying to determine, hold on a second. I think actually, we want the larger size. So put the larger size at the top. It's just going to be the opposite. This is the one that we'll keep. These two are the pieces that we're going to remove. So we're going to take our paper snips and go ahead. Let's cut those just so that you can see, and then we'll do our designer paper in just a moment. I just want you to be able to see this because once I do it on the paper, it's kind of hard to see the score lines as well as the cut marks. All right, so we're going to remove that. And then we're going to remove this whole piece right here. So we're just going to cut down and then just remove this whole piece right here. Hang on a second. Okay. All right, so this is going to be the top of our bag right here. Now, we're going to come in at the bottom, and we are going to trim up these score lines. Now, what I would recommend is we have our score lines. I'm just going to draw a small line and make like a tent because we want to do that little cut. We want to angle it so that the paper folds a lot easier. And you all seen and how we do that. So let's go ahead and actually, we're not going to do the first one. Let's do the second one. So I'm going to come up just slightly off the line. And it's kind of like you're making like a little triangle. So we're going to cut those off. We'll do that on each of these lines. So that will help our paper fold a little easier. We don't have all that bulk from the paper. And especially if you're going to be using cardstock, because obviously that's going to be a lot thicker. So you want to just trim off your little trees, if you will. All right, so we're just going to trim this one up to the score line, and then just come back and then trim and just take that off, okay? All right, so that's what we're going to do there. Now here, we're going to come in and we're going to cut this corner off right here. And we're going to, actually, we've cut it off down here. So this one, we're going to come in and cut at an angle. We're just going to remove this piece right here and take this whole piece off. Okay, so we're going to take that. We're going to remove that piece. All right, and then I think we've got everything. This one here, we're going to cut this one on the end just a little bit as well. Whoops, so we'll get that at an angle. So everybody should be happy. And then this one, since it's at the top, I'm just going to trim this just a tad like that. Okay. All right. So that's how the box is going to fold. So what we'll do eventually, this being our piece that's going to hold it together, we'll fold this over, flip it over, do it this way. And then that's going to tie right there. That's how you're going to glue this down. And then once we do that, then before we do that, we're going to go in, and I'll show you on the paper. We're going to bring our designer paper or cardstock in. In my case, it's going to be designer paper. We're going to fold this flap right in. We're going to bring this over. First thing we're going to do, we're going to bring in, if you have a label punch. Now, this is retired, but there's several that Stampin' Up has had over the years. So you want to layer this flap onto the card base, and then we're going to slide the punch in. And just bring it down slightly because you want the opening so you can hold. That's going to be your handle to your bag. So you're going to punch those two pieces, okay? And then we're going to open this and pull that out. Hang on a second. And then we're going to move this piece over. Now we're not going to fold it, but we want to get it just enough to bend. And I'll show you on the designer paper. It's going to be a little bit easier. We're just going to lay it. And I'll show you that on the paper. We're going to lay this down and we're going to pencil that onto here so we can cut it again. And I'll show you that once we get to the designer paper. Okay. So let's go ahead. I'm going to move this off to the side and bring in the paper and our trimmer. And we'll go ahead and get this one cut and scored the way that needs to be done. And let's see, we've got our measurement at, this one I've cut it at the 10 1/4. So you're going to see what the difference is from this compared to the other one. So it's 8 1/4 by 10 1/4. Okay. So go ahead. We're now, and this piece of paper, this designer paper came from one of our, when we first acquired, close to my heart, one of the scrapbooking kits was called Secret Garden. So I'm using some of the paper out of that particular kit. All right. So the first score, we're using our designer paper. It's a little bit more flexible and a little bit easier. We're going to score this at 3 1/2. All right. Then we're going to move it down to 5 inches. And then we're going to slide it down to 8 1/2. Get 8 1/2 there. And then we're going to move this down to 10. And you'll see the difference in the size of our little flap piece. Okay. Now let me turn it to the short side and we're going to score at 2 inches. And then we're going to slide this down to 6 3/4. And if you don't have this paper trimmer, we do have this in my online store. So you can just go in and type in paper trimmer and it will automatically come up. Okay, so we've got our score lines. And this is why I showed you on the white, because it's going to be a little bit difficult for y'all to see that. We're going to go ahead and do our score lines. So this is that end piece. This is the quarter. And on the white, when I instead of cutting at 10 1/4, I cut it at 10 1/2. So see the difference in the size. It just gives us a little bit more to help glue our bag together. All right, so just wanted to show you that. That's what I would recommend doing. All right, and then we're just going to come in and we're going to fold our paper and give it some good creases with our bone folder. I'll just go ahead and do all that. And I just go through with my fingers and I feel where the next score line is. Get your paper lined up and then come in and do your scoring. All right, we have one right here. And once you feel it, you'll feel it start to fold. And then we have, I think that's it for there. All right, now we're going to come on the bottom. We're going to fold this over. Now one side is a little bit longer, larger than the other. And that's the side that we're going to start cutting on first. So let me go ahead and get a good crease there. And let me, because I did not do this side, let me do this little 1/4 inch piece right here. All right, so we're going to do that. Okay. So this is the larger piece right up here. All right, so we're going to remove, just like I did on the white piece, we're going to remove this piece all the way over. So we'll go ahead and cut through that. And again, it's hard to see on the paper. That's why you need to take your time doing this, because sometimes it's hard to see the score lines, right? So depending on your paper, this one, if you fold it a few times, you'll have a better handle on where it is so that you can trim it up. So we're going to go ahead and just cut this piece off. Okay. All right, so that piece goes. And then we're going to remove this last corner on this side here. So this is going to be the top flap to our card. So I'm going to cut that. And then we're going to remove this piece here. All right, so we're going to take that one off. So those are the only 2 pieces of scrap that you're going to have right here. Okay, now we're going to come down to the bottom. And like I did on the piece of cardstock, we are going to cut our angle cuts to make our folding a lot easier. And I'm folding this backwards so that we can see where our score lines are. All right, so we're going to come in, and here is my score line here. So I'm just going to come off to the side just a little bit, and I'm going to make like a little, just a small triangle to cut that off so it brings everything at an angle. And we've got another score here, so we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to come over and cut up to that score line, and then come back on the opposite side and cut again. And then we have this one here, and we're going to do the same thing to this one. Okay. And that one there. And that comes off. Okay. Okay. And then this, we're going to cut this at an angle. Let me see here. We're going to go up here. Yeah, we're going to cut this one. And we're going to move that at an angle. And we don't need this piece here. So we're going to cut this piece off and then do a little triangle there. All right, and then up, since we've cut this one, we're just going to angle cut this one too. It just makes it a lot easier when we go to fold it and close it up. Okay. All right. So you can decide which side you want to be the top, the front. So I want the polka dots. That's going to be the insides. I'll just leave the darker on the outside, or I could flip it over. It doesn't matter either way. So I think we'll just go with the diagram. We'll leave it the way it is. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring this piece in. Again, I showed this just a minute ago. So we're going to bring in our label punch, and we're going to push it through and just bring it down. You don't want it far, but you want it enough that it's in. But this is going to be the handle, and try to make sure that it's even on both sides before you do your punching. And I think that's pretty good. We can move it over a little bit. All right, so we're going to punch that right there. Okay, now keep these pieces because we're going to use one of these. But I kept both. Hang on, I got to get this out of here. You know how the punch is. You don't want to tear your paper. Just in case we need an extra one. All right, so we've got that. Now, before we fold our bag, we want to get the hole punched for the back so this goes all the way through, right? So I'm going to fold this just lightly. I'm not going to push it down, but I just want to hold it in place to where I can fold. So I'm going to line it up this side right here with the end of the flap, right here. And we're going to fold this down. And give me just 1 second. I'm going to try to get it so it flat without squishing it. All right, now I'm going to take my pencil and I'm just going to draw inside the punch line of the punch that's what we're going to do. All right, so it makes it a lot easier to cut it. So now we'll come in and we're going to cut this one here. So that way, you know, they're going to line up, right? So that's the tip of the day. All right, so let's get that in there. We're going to line it up. It might be off just a little bit, but if the pencil marks show, you can erase them. All right, so let's get that off. Okay, so that's what we've got so far. Now, the next thing we're going to do is, again, keep the, we don't need that one, but keep these two little ones here. Now, there is this punch pack that is in the catalog or in the online store. This is an 1/8 of an inch punch. Oh, I'm not, hang on a minute. That's not the one I want. I want the slit. Hold on one second. I was using that for another project. Hang on a minute. Here it is. That is, I am using that one, but not for this. All right. So there's the trio punch. You've got the 1/8 of an inch. You have the slot, and then there's one other one that's in this punch pack. And that's in the online store. This is going to be a slit that we're going to cut to make a locking mechanism so that it can slide through. So what I'm going to recommend is you go in from the back. So you see how it's got that little slot right there. Let me pull up to the camera. So I'm just going to put my punch in there and try to get it somewhat even. And you don't want it so far down, but you do want enough room that you can, it's going to lock it in and hold it in place. And then just punch and see how we've got that little slot right there. So that's going to be for our mechanism. All right. This is an easy bag. So if you're having holidays or birthdays or whatever, you can make a lot of these. You can make them up in advance and you'll have them all done. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the bag together, and then we'll move forward with our, get this set down. We're going to lay it flat, and then we're going to fold this side over. Hang on a minute. We're going to fold this one over, so it's going to have to go this way, right? So we're going to put some glue on this side right here. This is where, when I did the template, if you're just joining, you'll see my template, how I've got the 1/2 inch makes a lot more, gives you a little bit more room to make sure it's going to adhere to the bag. But the 1/4 of an inch is fine, but I prefer the extra 1/4, so it gives you a 1/2. All right, so we're going to put some liquid glue on here. So let's go ahead on this little tiny flap right here. So we're going to put some liquid glue here. All right, and then we're going to fold the bag over and make sure that it adheres right to where that point, and you line it up. So see how it's lined up. All right, so let that sit for just a minute to make sure that it adheres before we move forward. Now see how the bag is coming together? Okay. Hey, Karen. Oh, you're not late. That's fine. You can always watch what you missed. All right, so there's that part of the bag. Now we're going to go ahead and fold in. So fold in the bottom. Now, I like my bags to look pretty on the front, right? So I always fold the back in first, so that when I fold my front to the back, it gives it a very clean look to the bag. All right, so that's what I would recommend, but you can do what you would like. So I'm going to fold the back end, and I'm going to put some adhesive on it. And I put adhesive all the way. You probably don't need to, but that's just what I do. I'll put a little bit here. And then I always put a little bit on the front as well. We'll just put some right there, so they flap over. And that's just enough to hold it. Put the adhesive will go in the center where I went around the edges. And then just fold this flat, okay? And then push it down. And you can take your bone folder, and we can go in and push these down to make sure it adheres, or just take your punch that you used and just slide it down in and let it sit for a minute. Just let it sit so the weight kind of pushes it down, okay? All right, so while that's taking place, we'll get, let me see here. I need to get a piece of scrap paper, and I'm gonna stamp the sentiment, and then we'll come back and finish up on that. So let me go ahead and let that sit for just a second. I'm gonna make this a birthday. You know me, I always have birthdays, so we'll make this a birthday one, but this will be a good one for birthdays or holidays, for, you know, like I said, Halloween or Christmas or Hanukkah, whichever you celebrate and you want to give somebody a nice gift, or just because. All right, so I'm going to stamp this on here. We're going to fussy cut this out. We're not going to use this big old stamp. We're going to cut it in half. All right, so we're going to leave that right there for the moment. Now let's get back to the bag. Okay. All right, so our bottom is secured. Now you push in with your fingers and you can kind of give it that little, so it moves. See how we can push it in and it will fold shut. And then we can pull the flap over. So you just want to gently push it to get it to move. And then we're going to push them in and then see how the bag will fold shut, just like that. Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to take one of these guys here. We're going to cut it down just maybe a third. Okay. We're going to put some adhesive on it. And we're going to, now I recommend you can put it in here if you want to really make it kind of hard to do. This to me is very cumbersome. So what I would recommend is we're going to glue it right to this edge. So that way, when we get ready, we only want to glue part of it, and then we're going to tuck it in that hole. Okay. So look how this one, how I've got it up here, it kind of bends a little bit so that it will go right into that slit, and then it closes right up, and that kind of holds the lid down. See? And that holds it right in place. It's a lot easier if you do put it right here. And you can kind of, if you're not sure, then tuck it through this way and glue it. What you'd want to do would be to tuck it in and just keep it like right there. Put some adhesive just right on this little part right here, and then close the bag, and that's going to attach it right there. So why not just attach it to begin with? So that's what I'm going to do. So we'll go ahead and attach this. I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive on the back, right on that little part where I made it kind of do a little bend. And I'm going to lay that right about here. And I'm going to attach it right there. Make sure I've got it right in the right place. Oops, I slid it over. Hang on a second. Let's get this slid over. And we'll get it lined up like that. To me, this is just a little bit easier. All right, so let's let that sit for just a second. Now I'm going to take this piece here, the bottom, and I'm going to bend it up just a little bit because we want it to go into that spot. Okay, that's going to be our locking mechanism. So now when we want to fold the bag, let's turn this up just a little bit more. And we're going to bend it just a tad. And then we're going to come in. We're going to close our bag, pull that down. Of course, once you get it closed enough, it's going to hold down. So this is going to go in that slot, and it's going to lock itself into place. Push it down. And now if you see a little bit popping up, then we'll just trim that off, and which it does. So it's a little bit long. So I'm just going to come back, and I'm just going to trim a little bit off. We don't need to have that point there. So we'll just pop it in here again. Hang on. Let's get this closed and push that in. And there you go. We are in, and we'll just push that back. He needs to lay flat. And that's how you get your bag to close. All right. So now that it's closed, then we're going to go ahead and do our decorating. So I'm going to turn him back. I kind of like to lift it up towards me so that when it goes in, it's kind of doing like a little hook. So it will hook right into that. And if that one doesn't seem to work, then just try one of the other pieces. So again, we're going to tuck it in, fold the bag, push it down, making sure everything is square, and then there you go. It holds in place. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and decorate. Now I cut out a piece of Grady apple green, and I used the nested essentials, and I think these are still available. I used the second one up because I just wanted to add something that we can dress up the bag itself. So we're going to use that. And I've stamped the happy birthday from the scripted. Now this one, we have two. This one is retired. This is the sweetly scripted, but I like this size will fit what I want to do. So I'm going to come in. Let's move this out of the way and cut and I am going to cut this in half, but I'm going to trim this down first. So I make sure I'm going to make it somewhat small. So I'm going to line this up right where my trimmer barely touches the top of the letters. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to trim this down. I'm going to cut off some of that curly Q that's coming off the Y, and the same thing on the happy. Now I use this for another scrap, and then we'll cut this one down. So that's going to go away. And those pieces we can use. And then I'm going to cut these in half, and we're going to add that to our bag. Remove this. All right, so I'm just going to come in with my paper snips and cut these apart. Now I might need to make, I think I'm going to trim this down just a little bit more. That's a little too much on this side, so I'm just going to trim that down. And I think we're good there. And then on the happy, on the birthday, I think we're good. We could trim this a little bit. Let's do that. Okay. All right, so we have that. And then we'll come in with our Granny Apple Green. This is where the little 1/8 of an inch punch, the little hole comes into play. So this will allow us to pull ribbon or twine or whatever. So I'm just going to poke a little hole right there. See how that worked? So this is a good little trio of mini punches. If you are looking and you don't have anything, these are perfect for doing this type of crafting projects. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to glue these down, and I'm going to put them at an angle, and then I'm going to add some twine and run this through our hole, and then we're going to tie it to our bag. You can do ribbon, whichever you prefer, and I'm going to trim one more little scooch behind the underneath the underneath the happy, just so it gives me a little bit more room. And you can add this however you want. You can set it straight. You can put it at an angle. I kind of like it angled. So we're going to go just like that. And if a little bit hangs over, that's okay, right? So let's get the happy there. And really what I'd like to do is have him kind of centered over the top of the birthday. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll put our adhesive on the back of the happy. We'll place that right about there. And then the birthday, we're going to put right like that. So let's go ahead and glue this one down. And we'll attach that one. And we're going to try to make the happy a little bit centered over the birthday. All right. And then we're going to come in with some twine. And I'm looking for some embellishments to add on here. So let me have just a second. I forgot to pull those out. Let's see what we have. Actually, I think we might be able to use this. All right, so let's pull in some baker's twine. This is the white. You can tell this one's a little bit older because it's not on a spool anymore. I'm just gonna do a double loop, tie a bow, and then we'll feed this through, and then we're gonna tie a bow. All right, so let's give this a good cut. And let's get this pulled through. And then we may have the tails might be a little long, but we'll trim those off when we get a minute. All right, so let's go ahead and get that done and get these twisted. Okay, so we're going to feed that through. Hold on a minute. And if you have a needle threader, that might be helpful if you have a hard time trying to get your twine through there. The needle threaders are very helpful for that as well. All right, so there we go. So we're going to pull that through, and then I'm going to tie a bow. Now, what I would like to do is, let me think about this for a second. Actually, I think I'm just going to tie it on the card and attach it with a dimensional rather than looping it. Now, you can loop it through like I did on this one. This one, no, I didn't. I put this one on the lid, and I tied the ribbon through the hole and then tied some twine around it. And then on this bag, I did just the ribbon. I did a double bow on this one. But you can run it through, but you want to make sure if you run it through the opening that you put it on the top and not the bottom, because otherwise it can't open the bag. All right, so let's go ahead and tie our bow, and then we'll trim up our twine. So let me go ahead and get this tied, and we'll get this done. So let me give this a good push here. Let's see what we can do. All right, so let's tie this. You know, it's always makes it look so much harder when you're trying to do this, right, with a small piece of cardstock and paper, right? Okay, that's not too bad. Look at that. All right, let's pull the tails down. We'll make this a little bit smaller for the bow. And we'll do the same over here. Now this one is the extra one. So I'm going to cut this because this is going to be the tail of the other side. See, we trim this one up a little bit. That's too long. All right, so there we go. And then all we have to do is kind of twist our ribbon a little bit. And let's hold the center, pull your twine to make it smaller. And that way it doesn't get out of hand. And then just kind of make it taut. Just pull it just a little bit. And then you can kind of spread out your bow if you'd like. And just kind of hold it in place and tighten it. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, let's add our dimensionals. And using scraps. So we're going to cut along here and use some of our side pieces. Don't want to throw anything away, right? So we're just going to put a couple of pieces on the back and figure out where we're going to set this. I think we'll set it. Let me get my bag. Let me push my bag in a little bit more so it kind of gets used to folding. And let's close this guy up. Hang on a minute. Put him in his hole to lock it in place. All right. I think we'll attach it right to the front like this. We'll kind of put it in the center. All right. So we'll go ahead and take off the adhesive to the back of our dimensionals. And once we get that done, our bag will be finished. Hang on a minute. All right, so we've got our bag closed. Now this one's kind of a plain Jane compared to the other one, right? Because it's a very, but this could be more, if you didn't put the bow on it, this could be used for a man. I mean, it could be a masculine. Now this one, I want to show you what I did. Now look where I put the second piece of my adhesive. So I can't do that, right? Because if I put that there, you're not going to be able to get the bag opened. So we're going to take this piece off and we're going to move it up a little bit. Actually, hang on a second. We're just going to take it off because it's not cooperating. We don't want that down that far. Otherwise, we could do that if we want to do it to the bag. But I think we want to have it on the lid. So let's do that. We'll just go ahead and close this up again. Get our locking mechanism back in place. Fold that down. And then we have one. We could actually add another little piece, but we'll just put it right behind the other one. That way we know we have plenty of room. Get the thread off that one. We'll put it right behind it. All right, there we go. And then we're going to attach that one and we'll put it at an angle. We'll just put it just like that. All right, so there's your little gift bag, quick and easy. So this is a great way that if you have extra paper laying around or you're trying to find something different to do, this is a great way to make these small gift bags. And look, I mean, they're really, let's see, they are 3.5 inches wide and they are 4.5 inches tall. So that's a pretty good size. All right, so let me bring in the ones I did that are a little bit more of flower. They got more flowers on them. That one was more of a plain Jane. Let's get this locking mechanism in this one. Hang on a second. I got to get him folded up. Push that one down. So here's this one. This is one of our other designer papers. And then here is this one. We'll put him back together. Let me lock him in place. And these, there we go. So there we go. There's showing you three different types of papers that you can make your gift bag. 3.5 by 4.5 inches. That's pretty good size. All right. I hope you all enjoyed this. It's always nice to learn how to make gift bags, right? So we're going to, let me lock this one back in there again. All right. So that is it. If you have any questions, reach out to me. Hey, Shelly. If you have any questions or need anything, let me know. You can reach me through the comments. If you're not working with a demonstrator, I'd love to work with you, and just reach out. If you aren't on my newsletter list, I would highly encourage you to join. I send out weekly newsletters to give you updates on what's taking place in the crafting world. And I believe there is a link below. If you're not sure, you can just leave a comment with news, and then I'll send you the link to sign up. But I believe it's below the video. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday afternoon or mid-morning. I greatly appreciate it. And I will see you all next Tuesday. Thanks again. Have a great day.